Okay, I had stopped with cancer on the last video. Cancer is where cells that they lose control of mitosis. They start dividing out of control. This was actually in our section in our unit under cell division where it's talking about melanomas. Asymmetry is you look for like dark spots on skin that are all uneven and not necessarily curved together. The border, it says here, can be uneven, scalloped, or noticeable edges. Notched edges, excuse me. The color, you have to be careful with moles or dark spots on skin. Those are melanomas. The diameter, it says can grow larger than moles. So just some things to look at. But cancer is basically cells dividing out of control. Now, I didn't give you access to this. I don't think you really need it, or I didn't put this in our unit. This is from an anatomy course. This is actually healthy lung tissue. The white spaces are alveoli, and here are the walls of the alveoli, and that's where all the gas exchange takes place. That's how oxygen gets down to the blood. And remember, carbon dioxide is produced from cell respiration, and that part is ventilated off. When a person breathes out, or animals, you breathe off water and carbon dioxide, which then plants use to make glucose and oxygen as a byproduct. That's a normal, healthy lung. This is a cancer lung. You can see where the cells have tried to, or they're moving in to the alveolar spaces. So this is what a tumor would look like. These are squamous cells. They're just dividing out of control. And that's what cancer is. So where you have normal healthy tissue and cancer has the ability cancer cells can move to different parts of the body and cause those cells to start dividing out of control. But that's what it would look like. It's basically filling in the areas that were clear before. All right. I'm going to give just a brief introduction to meiosis. And then the last video, I like to do these shorter, I'll cover all those parts. So meiosis is division of sex cells. Actually, in the genetic lottery, you get one chromosome from the mom and one for the dad for all 46 chromosomes if you're a human being. Like it says here, each offspring of sexual reproduction inherits a unique combination of genes from its two parents. And meiosis does two things. It's going to cut the number of chromosomes in half. And I gave you access, and I'm going to leave it. I'm going to go down to here just for a second. Okay. What I was going to say, meiosis does two things. It cuts the number of chromosomes in half, and it allows for what's called genetic variability. Nobody's exactly like their parents. You can't have a 46 chromosomed sperm penetrating a 46 chromosomed egg. You'd have a 92 chromosomed zygote, and then your kid would be a different species. So you can't have that. Here are some terms of meiosis. A somatic cell is a cell that has 46 chromosomes. Now, a karyotype, these are really cool. This is what they look like. You take a cell that's in metaphase, you crack it open, use enzymes, and you can cut out all of the chromosomes in metaphase. They are then stained, and like it says here, you take a picture of each chromosome, then you take the pictures together and you piece them up and you pair them with their homologous chromosome buddy. Just like it says there. The two chromosomes of each matching pair are called homologous chromosomes. That means they're the same. They are similar. And right there it says carried genes controlling the same inherited characteristics. Well, the first 22 are called autosomes, non-sex chromosomes. And you can see, even though some of these are bent, This one's this way. You can see the stained areas are the same. These all look the same. In males, the XY, the Y is a lot smaller than the X. So female chromosomes, the 46 chromosomes fall nearly into 23 homologous pairs because the two X's are going to look just alike. In males, you can see that. They're not homologous. This is some genetic terms. That N represents a chromosome number. N actually represents 23 in human beings. A diploid cell is a cell that has 46 chromosomes. A haploid cell has 23 chromosomes. Eggs and sperm are haploid cells. I didn't mean to skip over this. The sex chromosomes, XY is male, XX is female. There are all kinds of variations to that. There's XXY. It's called Klinefelters. Can have masculine and females, and vice versa. But these are called genotypes. But these are all terms associated. So you'll see the 2N and the N. The N represents, we're talking about human beings, 23. N represents a haploid cell. I showed you earlier that one diagram that had, I think it was a deer that had 6. So the haploid cell in a deer with 6 chromosomes, and each cell would be 3. But in our case, we're talking about humans, so that's 23. All right, fertilization. I gave you these pictures, and there's one here that should be the last one. So what we're looking at, this is the female reproductive tract. Here's the vagina. All of this is the uterus, and then the entrance to the uterus is called the cervix. Each curve that goes this way and that way is called a fornix. And then this is an ovary, that's an ovary. These are called fimbriae, and the infundibulum is the wider area, but these are the fallopian tubes, or what are called uterine tubes. And they're coming down that way, like this. And then what happens is, normally once a month, during the menstrual cycle, one egg gets released, and the ovaries will alternate. Sometimes it's 2. If a person's taking hormones, they might have 6 eggs released. If all 6 get fertilized, then you have a litter. That's when you get like 6 kids. But there's the egg being released, and you can see there's a process of them forming. And I gave you this, and I should have put it right above that picture. But if you blow the ovary up, these are called primordial follicles. And then there's a hormone. There are reproductive hormones that cause this. One of these follicles gets selected, and you can see it growing larger and larger. It's actually a hormone called follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH. And it makes one of these smaller follicles grow into this thing called a Graafian follicle. And you can see the egg that's right inside there. And usually about the middle of the menstrual cycle, this is what ovulation is. The egg gets ejected, and then it's going to start moving down the fallopian tube. And in females, egg production is very uneven. You have this big, what's called a secondary oocyte or ovum, and you get a polar body. We'll get to those in the next video. So what I gave you is just kind of a brief little summary. See these arrows, and I can make this bigger. I mean, anybody can, but it's going to kick me out a little bit. But you can see the sperm. Sperm are deposited here, and you can see them moving up the uterus. They go through the cervix. According to reproductive chapters and textbooks, it takes about 90 seconds for sperm that are deposited to make it up through, to go in through the cervix very quickly. And you see the egg being released. I showed you that diagram. The egg starts going this way, and then the sperm come up this way, and that's where they meet. And if there is a fertilization, it's going to occur up here in the fallopian tube. So I gave you this picture. See, there's the egg, the secondary oocyte or ovum. This is a ring of cells that go along when the egg is ejected. And then you can see here, these are mature sperm. This part's called the head. Now, the head has this little, looks like a cap. It's called an acrosome. It's like a lysosome. They have digestive enzymes. They will break down the outside of the egg in hopes of one sperm penetrating the egg. And when that happens, when a sperm penetrates a secondary oocyte or ovum, female egg cell, that's what fertilization is. So, yeah, a sperm from the father fuses with a haploid egg cell from the mother. What you get as a result is a 46 chromosome zygote, which is diploid, has 2 sets of chromosomes, 1 from each parent, and from there you get a person. Zygote develops into, like it says there,
The male and female reproductive systems work together to allow humans to produce offspring and pass genetic information from one generation to the next. The male and female reproductive systems include organs that produce sex cells, organs that store or transport these cells, and accessory organs that facilitate or support reproduction. In the process of sexual reproduction, a sperm, the sex cell of the male, and an egg, the sex cell of the female, unite and merge their genetic information. This creates a fertilized egg. Pregnancy is a series of events through which a fertilized egg implants, becomes an embryo, and develops into a fetus. The resulting offspring carries genetic information from a male and a female into a new generation. The testes constantly produce sperm, the male sex cells. Production begins within the seminiferous tubules, where stem cells, called spermatogonia, develop into immature sperm. Each 46 chromosome spermatogonium divides through mitosis to produce primary spermatocytes. These cells divide by meiosis to become 23 chromosome cells called secondary spermatocytes, then spermatids. This multi-step process, called spermatogenesis, produces the 23 chromosome immature sperm cells that mature in the epididymis.
All right. A summary of meiosis before we get there. Yeah, same thing. Each chromosome has to be duplicated. The first division, meiosis 1, segregates the 2 chromosomes of the homologous pair. I'll show you that. They are actually paired up right next to each other, not like in mitosis. That's where the genetic recombination comes from. And then at some point, they'll be separated into haploid daughter cells. They have 23 chromosomes. And then meiosis 2 is just like mitosis as far as what happens during each stage. So I'll start there next.